Welcome back to Strength Coach Tutorials, and in today's tutorial we're going to continue on with our Speed and Agility Creator, and I'm going to show you how to create this load program form where you're going to be able to select from any of the saved programs that you've already created and hit load, and as soon as you hit load it's going to pull that program back into your form. This is going to be really useful for you to start to store all of your saved Speed and Agility programs and be able to recall them again and again for whatever team that you work with. So let's get into it. Okay, so to start this tutorial off, we are starting from the sheet that we finished off with in the last video. The only thing that's changed is I've actually loaded in a program that I've used in the past with the athletes that I work with, and in the program database I've just copied a few of the speed programs in there that I've given to athletes that I've worked with, and that's going to give us something to actually load into our program when we go and try out this macro that we're going to kind of create here. The other thing that's changed is I've just changed the color of the button that we finished off with in the last video, and it just kind of fits the aesthetic of the sheet that we're going for. Now, just a quick reminder that if you are liking these videos and this series, please like and subscribe to the channel, and then make sure you click the bell notification so that you get to be notified whenever I'm going to post a new video, and that just helps you stay up to date with everything Strength Coach Tutorials has to offer. And then moving forward, at the end of the video I'm going to have a special offer for anyone who makes it to the end of the video, and you may be able to get yourself a copy of this worksheet. So, similar to what we did in the last video, I am going to take you through the code for this video because coding can be a little bit finicky, and a couple of you have already messaged me about that the code wasn't working quite the way that you wanted to, and it's really just a syntax error and making sure that the code or making sure that all of the characters are in the right spot. So it can take a little finagling and it can be sort of a frustrating process, but if you work at it, you'll be able to kind of figure it out, no problem. And if you're really having some trouble, just sort of reach out and I'll see if I can help you out with some of the code. So we're going to break this down a little bit and we're going to go through it, and hopefully you'll be able to recreate some of this code or some of the ideas out of it for your own projects. So reminder, we had to enable the developer tab in order to get into the macro section of Excel. And if you want to know how to do that, just check in the last video where I show you how to do that as well. So we're going to go back into our developer tab and go into Visual Basic, and you're going to see a window that looks kind of like this. Now, in the last video we actually created a module, and as a reminder, a module is really just a piece of paper or a notepad that you create within Visual Basic or VBA, where you can start to write down all of your code. And we created module 1, and if I double click there, you're going to see all of the code that we actually put in module 1, and this is our copy program code, and all this does is loops through the different columns in our program where we write the program, and then copies them over to our master program database code. So if you have a good understanding how this works, you're going to be able to write the other code to pull the program back out, because it's a very similar process. Instead of copying range B6 to B44, we're going to copy a range from our program database and then paste it back in our actual agility program that we're going to print out. So it's kind of the same process in reverse. Now in the intro, what you'll notice is I already have this code created, so I'm going to just run the macro. I have this actual form that pops up, and that actually allows me to pick the program that I want to load. And like I said, I have some programs already in there, so I'm going to show you how to create this form, and I'll also show you how to use this clear program at the end. So I'm just going to cancel this right now, and we're going to start to work our way sort of through that. So we'll go back to the Visual Basic, and in order to create a form, you're just going to right click anywhere in this box on the left where we created our module, and I'm just going to put insert and then user form. And what it's going to give me is a sheet that looks kind of like this, and I can extend this as much as I want, or make it really whatever shape that I want. And it's pretty handy. It has these dots on it so that you can count them out and make sure that your form is uniform or even on all sides. And then what it gives you is this toolbar where you can actually add different types of controls into your form. So for example, we could add, where is it? What am I looking for here? A button. So that's what I added. I just added a button in there. And then when I actually use this user form, I'm going to be able to click that button and then it'll do whatever I tell it to do. Or we added a list box, and the list box will populate with a set of values depending on what we want that to do. So the user form is just a place where you can build like little pop-up windows that can do different things that you need them to. And whenever we're working in user forms, we're going to want to look at the properties window in the bottom left corner. And this is actually where you can name your form. So for example, if you notice, this form is named user form 1 right now, but I could actually name this Dave's form. And then now whenever I'm referring to that form in any of the code, I would put in the name Dave form as opposed to user form 1. And then you'll see that it has a caption up here of user form 1. And if I wanted to change that, there's an option for captions down here. And I would just put pick your program and load it. And then you notice that the caption up here changes. And there's a lot of options through here. There's all of your font color options. There's different sort of alignment options, font size options, all kinds of things. But I really only ever use sort of the caption and the name, and once in a while sort of the font if I want to change the font. And any sort of object that we put in this form, you're going to edit it basically the same way. So if we go to this command button, you can notice it says command button 1. And if we wanted this to be our load button, I could change this to load button. And then maybe we want it to say load when we click on it. So we go to where it says caption, and in there I type load program so that I know which button I'm sort of referring to. So that's how you create a user form, and you'll just have to play around with it a little bit. I've already created the one that we're going to use for this project, and it looks basically like this. So what I've done, I've created a pretty big window. I've put one of those list boxes in it. I've created a button that says load and a button that says cancel. And you'll notice that I've called this load program. And when I'm referring to that in code, it'll be called load program. So I would put, if I wanted to pull that up actually as something that I wanted to show on my sheet, I would just create a little macro the same way that we did the other one. And I've actually already done that. I put it in module 2, and this is the macro that we would put. So I just called it load program form. So sub load program form bracket bracket, and then the actual code to make your user form show is just whatever the user form is called. In this case, it's called load program, and then period show, and then end sub. So that is how that would work. So for example, if I wanted to show Dave form, I'm going to just create a quick sub for that. Sub Dave form show, and it'll give me my end sub, and then I'll just put Dave form dot show, hit OK. And now when I go back to my sheet, if I were to run that Dave form show, you can see that it'll show that form that we just created for demonstration purposes. So that's how you write that code to just make your user form show. And we can have these user forms do almost anything that we want. So I'm going to just exit out of that, go back to my Visual Basic. I'll go back to module 2, and I'm just going to delete that because I don't really need that macro for anything. So I'll delete that and put everything back to normal. Now we're going to go back to load form. I'm actually going to delete Dave form because we don't really need it. So I'm just going to remove, and it's going to ask me if I want to export it. So if I wanted to export it and I wanted to save it and use it in other programs or other Excel files, I'd hit yes. and I can actually name it, and it's going to save it as a .frm file. And then I could load that into other Excel files, and all the functions and things would be intact. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to remove it because I don't really need it, so I'm going to hit no. So that's how you kind of create and use user forms. If there's interest in that in future videos, we can go into that a little bit more. So from there, now that we've loaded our form, and it looks like this is what's going to pop up on our window. In order to actually write down what the form does, we need to actually add some form or some code to this form. So in order to get to the code window of the form, you just double click anywhere on the form, and it's going to pull up all of the different kind of buttons that are on the form, and we have to now write the code for what they do when you click them. So for example, up here at the top, we have a sub, and it's a private sub because it's underneath underneath the form. So it is a hidden sub, or a command, we should say. And what it's called is cancel button _ click. So this is the one that happens when we click the actual cancel button. And all that the code is, it says unload me. And me refers to the actual form in question. So anytime we're seeing me, that refers to the form, and then end sub. So all that does is, if running the macro to show the form loads it up, then when you click the cancel button, we just want it to unload that form so it kind of goes away. So I'll show you what that looks like in practice. Load program form, and then if I click the cancel button, you can see it just disappears. So that's the unload me kind of command. Now the next one that we want to look at is program list click, and that is the big box that loads all of our program. And since that doesn't do anything when you click it, we're not going to put anything in there. The next one is our user form initialize. And what this is what happens to the form when it loads. So the first thing we want to do when the user form loads is we want to clear out any old information that might be in it. So we go to program list, and program list refers to this whole box. This is what's called program list. So this is not a variable. This is actually an object on our form. And we want to clear that. So we put .clear. Then we have to define some variables like we did in the previous code. So we're going to define my cell and range items as a range. And now we have to do some, now we have to figure out how we're going to load all of the programs that we have coded into our actual form. So we're going to have a couple of variables here. The first one's going to be program row. And the program row is going to refer to the row that we actually choose in our form. But in this case, it's going to be sort of all of the, how many rows there are actually of programs that are created. So in this case, in my program database, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're in row 12. So if we go back to our form, you can see what this is going to do. So program row equals, we got sheets, and then program database, we need it to go to that sheet, .range, we want it to start in A, and rows.count. So what we're going to create is a reference here. So a number. Okay, so if it was the first column, first row, this would be A1, but it's going to be A whatever this number is. .end. So we want it to go to the end, and then we want it to control up until it finds one, and then add 1 to that. So this ends up creating a value of, in this case, A12. So we've gone to the bottom, gone all the way up, and then adds 1 to that. So it's going to create a value of A12. So our program row is going to be equal to A12. Now we need to figure out some things. So the first part of this code, we're going to look to see if that value even makes sense. So if sheets program database.range A1, so what that means is if the A1 cell in the program database equals nothing or double quotation side by side, then what I want it to do is make program row equal to 1. Okay, so basically what that's saying is that if this cell up here is empty, then our program row command is going to refer to this row right here. But if it's not, then we want it to refer to whatever one of these is sort of the last one, so we know how many rows we actually have. Then what it has is set our range items. So this variable up here, we want that to now be equal to sheets program database dot range A1A. So we want it to go all the way from A1, and it keeps going down A till it gets to the end. So it's A1, A, and program row. So in this case, that's going to evaluate to A1 to A12, okay? Because we've already defined program row as our last row value, and we know that A1 is going to be the first one. So we want it to look all the way through here, and it's going to be the range from A1 to A12, okay? So now we've set range items, so that it is that whole range. And now what I want it to do is take me.programList, so it's referring to the program list on the form, and for each my cell in range items.cells, so each one of the range items, so in this case all of A1 to A12, if trim my cell, and what trim does is it just trims out any spaces. So what this is basically checking is to see if there's an actual name in the cell and not just some blank spaces. So if trim my cell, which is the current cell that it's going to be on, somewhere between A1 and A12, does not equal nothing, okay? So if when we trim that value, it does not equal to nothing, then what I want it to do is add that item, myCell.value, to the actual program list, and then end if next myCell, okay? So if there is nothing in the next myCell, then it's going to end, and then we're going to end the sub. So what happens when we run this actual script is it's going to count through all of these, and then one by one add these to the actual list. So let's see what that looks like. Load program form, and it loads up, and as you can see, it adds all of those values, okay? So it goes from A1 to A12, and let's see what happens when we add just some spaces. Macro load program form. You can see that it doesn't actually add just the spaces. It doesn't count those as a value, because when it's trimmed, or when it trimmed that cell, it doesn't add that in because it equals to nothing. Okay, so that's just a quick little script that loops through to actually choose or to actually load in all of the different programs that we've saved here in the A column. So I'm going to cancel that and unload it. So that's the script there. Okay, so what that's doing is checking how many rows there are and then loading each one of those in as long as they have values in them. So that's part 2 of the user form. Then the last part of the user form is we actually want to choose which one to load when we click the load button. So the first part of this is if me.programList, so if the selection.programList .list index, okay, so what that's looking at is anytime I run this macro, when I'm actually on here, it's counting down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this case, we're on column or row 5, okay, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if the row that we've selected based on the selection that we've made, okay, if that is less than 0, okay, which the only way that it could be less than 0 is if we haven't made a selection. So in this case, if instead of making a selection, we just leave it blank. So if that's less than 0, what I want it to show is a message box that says please select a program and then go to end of sub. And end of sub is down here, so it would actually end our actual macro here. So what that looks like in practice, if I load this, it's going to say please select a program. I'm going to hit OK, and it's ended that out. So let's try it one more time. Please select a program. Okay, and it's going to end that out. Okay, so if I haven't selected anything, the actual value of that is going to be less than 0. So it's going to run this piece of the code. Then, if that's not true, it's going to end if by loading program script, and then it's going to load this value in the program script, and I'll show you what that looks like in 1 second. Then it's going to unload, so it's going to get rid of the actual form. So if this value is not true, meaning that we have selected something, then it's going to end this if statement, and it's going to run load program script with this value being loaded into that, and then unload the form. So load program script is another module that we have programmed. Okay, so when we go to module 2 now, what you're going to see is this formula called load program script, and then program row as integer. But because this is in brackets, it is going to take the value from the one that we chose out of the load program. So I'm going to go back to that for 1 sec. So you can see load program script and then the brackets, okay, that is going to correspond to the actual script. So load program script and brackets. So what does that actually refer to? That refers to me dot whatever we've chosen. So in this case, what program row would be equal to is 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, it would be equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's important because we need that value so that we can tell Excel which one of these rows we actually want to load into our program sheet. Okay, so I'm going to go back to kind of Visual Basic, and we're going to go back to our module. So again, we have selected our program out of the list box, and it does not equal 0, so we're loading our program script, and we're giving program row this value here, me.programList.listIndex, the one that we've selected. Okay, so module 2, let's work through this now a little bit. So we've loaded program script, and we're going to need a couple variables, the dimensions of a couple variables. So active sheet is the worksheet, and select range is the range. Set active sheet to active sheet, and set select range to selection. You're going to see that this code is very, very, very similar to the code that we had in the last video. It's just the reverse. Now that we've gotten here, it's really easy, and it's going to be really easy for us to figure out what this actually does. So application dot screen updating equals false. Application dot cut copy mode equals false. Okay, so all that means is it's not going to, when we copy things, it's not going to show this whole box. So as you can see, if I copied something, it shows this all around. It's not going to show any of that animation, and we put that in there just so that it makes everything run faster. It's going to just do it without showing the animation for it. And then what do we got to do? All we have to do is figure out what we want to copy and then paste it in, okay? So if we went back to module 1, we copy range B6 to B44, we know exactly where it's going to be, and then we paste it on program database dot range B and program row. So in this case, B whatever we've selected. Well, we're doing the same thing here, but now the program row is the one that we're selecting from. So sheets program database dot range B, okay? So we want to copy everything from B because we don't want to paste in the title. Okay, so what this is doing is it's starting at B and basically copying across this way based on whatever row we choose. So B and program row, which would make this cell reference would be if we had selected 4, this would make it B4 or B6 or B9 based on the row that we've selected. And then for cell references in Excel, if I wanted to select from here equals there to there, what you'll see is it puts 2 double dots between it. So it's selected everything from C22 to G22. But in the case of our range here, we want B program row to ... AN program row, okay? If you remember, we pasted everything all the way from B all the way up to, where is it? AO was our first paste, okay? So we want to copy everything from B to AN, so just before where our next paste starts. And the easy way to check what we need is if I just go back to module 1, we pasted B6 to B44, and we pasted it in B, okay, so to paste it all the way. Then the next one starts at AO. So we want to copy from basically B all the way up to 1 less than AO. So in this case, we're going from B all the way to AN, and program row, and then we just paste it right in B6. Okay, so we go to range B6 and we follow the same formula, dot paste special, paste dot dot equals XL paste values, operation XL none, skip blanks equals false. So we want to paste all of it, and then transpose equals true, and transposed equals true is the key piece here. So what transpose done, if you remember, it'll take a row and paste it as a column, or it'll take a column and paste it as a row. So what is this code actually doing? Once we have selected where we want to go, it's basically taking these values from B all the way to AN, copying it, and then transposing it on here so that it pastes all the way down kind of this way. And that just messed up my file, but it's basically pasting it this way so that it's pasting all those values in there. Okay, sorry, I clicked the wrong one. So I want to hit transpose so you can see what it's done. It pasted them all down this way. Okay, so that's all we've done is copy those values and then hit transpose so it's pasted them. Okay, so now it's just a matter of copying that code a few different times. So in this case now we've gone from B all the way to AN. Now we have to go from AO to CE and then paste that in C2. So it would start it up here in C2 and paste it all the way down this way. And then we just do that over and over again. And I'll show you all of the values. So we go from range CF to DR, paste it in D6. DS to FE, paste that in E6. FF to GR, paste that in F6. GS to IE, paste that in G6, and then the last one is IF to JR and paste that in H6, and then we select our active range just to kind of reset everything, and we put the screen updating to true and the cut copy mode to false. So what does this look like in practice? Let's run the macro and see what it actually does. So load program form, and let's choose one of the workouts, February 13th, and I'm going to load that up. And you can see that it just loads all of the exercises in. Load program form, let's load this one. And you can see it just loads all of the program in. And the only other piece of this that is kind of unique is if I wanted to say create one that clears the program, all I need to do is keep one blank row so that it's going to paste blank values over top of everything. So if I ran the clear program, because that whole row is blank, you can see that it just kind of clears the whole thing. But I'm going to load a program back in there. So that's kind of how that macro works. And it's essentially just the opposite of the other macro, except using the user form to pull it up. Now, the only last piece to make this a functioning, basically software program is we just need a button to click to make it work. So I'm just going to take this save program button that I showed you how to make in the last video. I'm going to hit Control C, Control V, and I'm just going to paste this down kind of below it. And instead of save program, I want it to say load program. And I'm going to right click here, assign a macro, and I'm going to assign that load program form macro. So whenever I click this, I pull up that form and then it comes back out. So that's a really kind of, I don't know if it's easy, but it's a really powerful way to start to create a program database software where now we can save any number of programs and be able to print them off at any time. And then if we wanted to print it, I could just go to File and then Print. And you'll see we've already formatted this so it prints nicely as one page. Then it would be as easy as loading a new program. Let's say this one. And then File, Print, and we would have a new program printed. So that's how you kind of create and complete the Speed Agility Program Creator. And I hope that this video helps you out. Now, as I said at the intro of this video, I have a special kind of offer. if you want a copy of this program or this worksheet, I'm going to be giving them away for free. And all you have to do is like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video that you want to get the sheet, and then send me a picture of you or send me a DM or something of you tweeting the video, okay, and tag me in it at DSMStrength, and that'll be it. So again, if you want to get a copy of this for free, tweet the video at DSMStrength, tag me in it, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment on the video. And once you've done those things, send me a message and I'll verify that you've done them, and I can send you a copy of this sheet for free, and you can have your own speed and agility program creator for free. So I hope that helps you out. And just as a reminder, you can find me on social media at DSMStrength, and I will be hopefully posting a new video next week, every Monday and Friday. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.